Hey guys, Chris here. Today I am out doing a hike. It's a beautiful fall day and we have some stories, some really spooky stories I'm going to be telling as I'm on this hike from our viewers. Also, last night I was in this exact area and I found, I believe, a Bigfoot Sasquatch footprint. We'll take a look at that as well. That's next. Okay, so last night I was hiking up near the Blue Lakes and I found this granite ridge and I hiked to the top of it. Just beautiful views of the surrounding mountains. And I got to the top and I could see down below was this very, very dark forest. And then turns out I looked at the map and it's this giant horseshoe of granite that surrounds this dark forest. And that is where I found this footprint. It was leading right down into this dark forest. And that is where we're gonna go and check out what's in there. So pretty squatchy. Okay, so this is where we start climbing, right here. We are gonna go up this, and it goes for a long ways, about 300 feet through all this granite, so. I'm at the last stretch here before we get to the top, and then it drops off into this bowl, and it's this kind of rock all the way around with these cliffs and then this dark forest. So this is where I was last night, just before sundown, and I was coming through here. Hey guys, Chris here. I have been hiking around, just scouting out locations to film videos at. I do that occasionally. While I was here, I found something that looks very much like a footprint. It's very clearly a footprint. I can't quite see toes on it. Okay, so I was coming through here and I saw this footprint. And there it is. And I'm running out of daylight, but this is the footprint right there. And you can see the trajectory of it goes down this little slope here into this very thick and dark forest. But check this out. Look at that. There's nothing else around. I checked it out for any kind of a tread from a boot. I found nothing. And you can clearly see it curves around right here, and it's very heel, and it's deeper here and here and kind of arched in the middle. And you can see where the toes could be. I've studied it up close. Really looked at it. I've seen no other prints in front of it or behind it. It's the only one. We've had some rain up here recently, and maybe it was muddy at the time and it rained. Compared to my boot. And that is very wide, as you can see, and you can see how deep it is, especially back where the heel would be. Right back in here. Look at how deep that is. And I can't leave anything. I'm pushing down, standing on one foot. Nothing. Not even an indent. So So I'm gonna walk along and see if I can see anything else. It was definitely coming through this area here. It's kind of a frog or something. Hear that? Hope that's a frog. But really weird that if it could leave one print, why didn't it leave others? And it was clearly a print with nothing else around it, so. But it came out of this forest right here. That's the trajectory. It came from that direction, went straight that way, and I found this really deep, dark part of the forest. A little haunting looking down into it. It looked like it went from there down through here, and the forest gets very, very dark, especially over here. It's a little spooky. I was up here an hour ago before I found this footprint, and you can see how dark it is. It drops way down, and obviously you can see how thick and dark it is back in there. Really crazy. I think I'm gonna take a little peek over the edge here. And keeping my eye open too. Yeah, very dark in there. Well, let's just stop right at this log here, but yeah. And the camera makes it look lighter than it actually is. Okay, so now we're gonna pick up the trail where I was last night and then go further into this forest where it got pretty spooky. Okay, as you guys can see, it's really dark in here. And the sun is still pretty high. It's 4:30 in the afternoon. So this is, like I said, it is surrounded, it is ringed by these granite walls, and there are no trails back here. I studied Google Earth on this thing, so. And these trees are really, really tall. Wow, look at this. Look at that. Crazy tall. So, one of our viewers, his name is Mark. He wanted to go by a different name. Lives in Seattle. Loves to recreate. He's got a lot of friends that do. He's got friends in the Forest Service and friends that are out doing hiking, camping, fishing. He said a lot of them have stories. He said one of his friends was in construction, working out of Seattle. Some years ago, he and another friend were in a Chevy Blazer. They were heading over Snoqualmie Pass on the interstate, and they were going through there late at night, no one else on the road, and they saw this dark shape, this figure crouched down next to this concrete barrier on the median of the freeway. Really wild, and they slowed way down to take a look at it. And as they crept by, this thing stood up and casually stepped across the concrete barrier, which is 3-4 feet high, and walked towards the vehicle. His friend that was with him in the passenger seat, he said this thing looked down through the sunroof at them, and his friend had a really hard time with that, and he broke down in tears and does not want to talk about it. All right, I am looking for any sign of tracks, anything on trees, scratch marks. I've found in the past broken tree limbs that broken way up high. And as well as structures. Here's deer prints right here. Clearly a deer print. There's another one. Another one. We continue to drop, and the trees continue to get really big down there. You can see these very thick stands of pines, a lot more underbrush. Oh, and this is where a small pond would form in the spring right here. Giant boulders all over the place, but this is where you would find footprints in an area like this. That same viewer, Mark from Washington, from Seattle, had a good friend of his who was also a hunter. One year, a number of years ago, him and his wife went elk hunting in Washington. I believe it was near Mount Rainier, Snoqualmie Baker National Forest. And there they were looking for elk. Finally, at dusk, they got an elk. They shot an elk. And he sent his wife down to the dirt road, the Forest Service road, to get the truck and bring it up as close as possible, because the elk that they shot was about a quarter of a mile from the road. So they got the truck as close as possible. She waited at the truck. He was up. As the sun was going down, he started to gut this elk. He heard up above him in the forest 2 really loud screams. These things were on the left and on the right, screaming, and every time they screamed, they got a little bit closer. He had no idea what it was. He's in the forest, it's almost dark, he's working on this elk, and then these screams were so close, decided to get out of there, and he looked down the slope and he could just see the headlights of the truck waiting for him, and he took off running down the slope through the forest to get to the truck. He had his rifle in hand as he's going through the forest, pushing branches aside, just like I'm doing here, and trying not to fall because he can't see very well at all. He hears the screams coming through the forest after him. He works his way down, does not fall, and thankfully, he could see the headlights. He had something, literally a light at the end of the tunnel to go to. He gets onto the dirt road, goes to the passenger door, opens it up, and his wife says, "What in the hell is that?" He gets in, slams the door shut, and he says, "I don't know, but we need to get out of here." And she said, "What about the elk?" And he says, "We got to go. We'll come back tomorrow, maybe." They go home. They have no idea what it is. He's a hunter. He's experienced a lot of things in the forest. Was in the mountain lion, bobcat. They go back the next day. Go up into the forest, right where the elk was. And the gut pile that he made is gone, like something carried it away. And he also said that it was dead quiet and there were no birds on the carcass. The hunter took the head and the hindquarters, brought it down to the vehicle, packed it up, put it away, came back up for the rest of it, and the elk was gone. All right, you guys, this forest is it's cooling down. I'm very low right now. Sun is right at the horizon here. You can see it's getting very low. It's very quiet in here. I can hear the wind on the treetops above me, but these trees are just really, they're huge down here. Look at that. And I could see this being really intimidating, to say the least, at night, and pretty hard to walk without making a lot of noise too. Not going to be stealthy. Listen to that crunching and cracking. But I think what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go back to the granite outcrops, and I got another story, and I got a beer I'm going to drink. So I think we're going to get out of this forest and go up there. I haven't seen any more footprints, but I'll keep an eye on things. And yeah, just really cool to be down here. Look at how vast this thing is. It's just huge in here. Okay, so I found a spot in between these rocks to get out of this wind that's been kicking up. And we have a beer. It's called Battle-Born Beer. And that is an American lager, 16 ounces. And it says, "Conserve Nevada's mule deer," right there on the can. That's pretty cool. And then over here, it says "Wildlife Supporter," with their logo there and the little barcode. And that says it won't kill you to recycle. So yeah, I agree. So let's take a taste of that. And Battle-Born refers to, boy, that got shook up in my backpack, the Civil War, and in the 1860s, that was their motto back then. Oh, look at how light that is. It is almost like apple juice or something. It's so light. I'm gonna take it straight out of the can. And that is a 4.7 ABV on that. Ooh, wow. It's definitely got a light, flavorful kick to it. Almost a sparkling water beer combo going on there. It's really kind of fun. Wow, and there's a little bit of a tartness almost to the end of it, the finish. And very smooth though, real smooth. That's an American lager. So there you go. Battle-Born, cheers. Okay, so this story takes place in Iowa. Now, I grew up in Minnesota, and our southern neighbor, the southern border, was Iowa. And what connected us to Iowa was the Mississippi River, because the Mississippi River runs for about 2/3 of the eastern side of Minnesota, and then it continues and forms the eastern side of Iowa. So that's what connects the two states. And this story took place in Dubuque County, which is in the east central part of the state near the Mississippi River, near this small town called Asbury. And this is along the Mississippi River, and there's a tributary of the Mississippi called the Maquoketa River, Little Maquoketa River. And this is where Jonathan and his son, Miles, went fishing. And they liked to go fishing there a lot, particularly this one year, which was 2012, and it was September of that year. Miles really liked the time with his dad. They would fish along the river, talk, hang out. It was really casual. There wasn't a boat involved and lake, and what they would do is they would take these 5-gallon buckets with the lid, and they would put their tackle, a couple of small drinks in there, a sandwich, and put the lid back on, carry that, and then carry their fishing rod, and they would park the car at this river access along this little Maquoketa River and follow the river in, and then find their spot to go fishing. And they like to go fishing in this river for walleye, northern pike, and smallmouth bass. And the river had these nice drop-offs, and the fish liked to hang out where it dropped off. And then there was also these cliffs, not very big, just these small 12, 15, 20-foot sandstone cliffs along the river in various spots, and it created this really nice atmosphere. And then because it was carved out, it had these deep corners, and the fish liked to hang out there. So they set up their buckets side by side on one side of the river, sat down, cast it out, and reeling in, and they right away hooked a smallmouth bass. Nice size, good 15 inches. Put it on the stringer, and they were off to a really good start. Hanging out, talking. Miles was talking about school, about fall and things coming up. And it was just a really nice father-son time and really casual. It was getting dark. This is late in the afternoon, evening. It's late September. And sun is going down, and the moon was coming up, and it was like a half moon. And they're fishing, and on the other side of the river, they could hear some movement, something coming towards them on the other side of the river. Right away, Jonathan's thinking, okay, maybe a raccoon. This is raccoon country. There's a lot of raccoons around here. And then he waited, and it seemed larger, so he was thinking, okay, maybe that's a deer. Did see a deer, and then all of a sudden he saw what looked like a person coming through the forest, backlit by this light, the sun going down, and the moon was starting to come out, and it was dusk, and they could see this silhouette of this looked like a person. As it got closer and it got louder, they could see this person. It was a silhouette. It was very large, really large shoulders, a smallish head, and this big kind of swinging arms and these long strides. It's kind of coming at a slight angle, coming down this hill to this little drop off, this bluff, just like this rock here, not super tall, 12, 15 feet high. And it came up behind this small stand of trees, 2 trees side by side, and it stopped behind it, behind this tree. And it was so big, they could see it on either side of the tree. And then this thing kind of peeked out like this, looked straight at them. They couldn't see eyes. They couldn't see any facial features. It was mostly silhouette. But it was clearly upright. It was clearly human-like. It was clearly bipedal, which means 2 feet walking. And then it sidestepped and went in between the 2 trees where they could clearly see it. still looking right at them. Then it squatted down, kind of like I am, like this, with the legs up, put the arms in between like this, and it was sitting in the brush around it, and the 2 trees on either side, and there's a third one on the left. And he took pictures of the trees the next day. This thing staring right at them, not moving, and then occasionally it would just turn its head, kind of twitch, and Jonathan didn't say anything, and he didn't feel any danger, and so he just kind of was going to let things play out and just see what happens. After about a minute or so, Miles says, "Dad, do you see that?" He said, "Yes." "What do you think it is?" And right away he says, "That's a Bigfoot. Clearly that's a Bigfoot." And he said, "Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right, Miles." And he wanted to kind of use this as almost like a teaching moment to just play it cool. Don't panic. Don't run. Let's just kind of see how things play out. This thing was on a small bluff on the other side of the river. It was pretty deep there. Didn't feel any danger. This thing wasn't acting aggressive. He thought, okay, let's kind of play it through, see what happens. He said, okay, well, let's kind of see what this thing does. And if I say, let's go, that means we go immediately. Okay, so I'm watching the situation, and he's talking to Miles. Miles said, okay. And Miles thought this was really cool, very intense at the same time, but he thought, yeah, let's just play it cool. We don't need to scream and yell or start running. And so they sat there for almost 10 minutes. This thing watching them watching this thing, and they're still fishing, trying to act kind of cool about it. And then they heard off to the left something coming down this slope through the forest. And it was another one. This one went behind a tree, then it sidestepped out, and then it leaned up against the tree. And this was a little farther back, maybe 20 feet back. And so it was like this and then this back, and they're both now staring at Miles and Jonathan. Jonathan's watching it carefully. He's looking back at the trail. Okay, it's getting dark. And then they heard, about 3 minutes later, a third one coming from the opposite side on the right side. And this was a pretty good sized hill, and they could see it at the top of this hill because there was some light from the sun was down, but there was still light, and they could see this silhouette coming through the trees and the brush. This one appeared smaller, and it came down about 30 feet behind the first two. So it was 1, 2, 3, or actually 1, 2, 3, like that, spaced out. And that one's now staring at them. 3 Bigfoot staring at them, all spaced out a little differently. And Miles is like, "Dad, this is crazy." He goes, yeah. We may want to get out of here, but let's just play it cool. And he was watching everything very carefully. And this smaller one, it's about 5 feet tall, it looked a little more restless, and it started rocking, and then it turned and looked at the other two, and then it turned and looked at them, and it put its head back, and Jonathan said it had this high-pitched, shrill shriek. Just a terrifying sound that it made. Sent chills up their spine, their hair was up in the back of their neck, and right then Jonathan said, "Let's go. Now, we got to go." They both stand up, grab their buckets, fishing rods already in hand. They already had them reeled up because they were done fishing. And they turned, and as they're walking away, they're looking back across the river at these 3 Sasquatch, and the one that just screamed is looking like this straight at them, more aggressively. The other 2 got up and walked towards the third one and was heading towards that third one that was standing there watching them. And then all three of them stopped and were really close together watching them walk away. And they were moving pretty quickly, and they're going through the forest, and it's very dark in there. They got off the trail, and they were in the forest, and they couldn't see very well at all, but he knew the car was up ahead along the river. Here's the river, the trail is going like this through the forest, and they got off the trail somewhat, and now they're in the forest. And right then, Jonathan and Miles both could hear more movement coming up over the hill, meaning there was more Bigfoot coming to this location that they could hear. They couldn't see him anymore because they were moving through the forest. They're heading for their vehicle, at least they thought. And when it's night and you're going through the forest, you think you're going like this. Here's the river, here's you walking, and then your vehicle's right here along the river in the little parking area. But if you go just slightly like that, you can go past your location, and then you get to a point and you're like, where is the vehicle? Where in the heck is the vehicle? And that's what happened to them. It doesn't take much to just get off your trajectory just a little bit. And he realized the car was not in front of them. They could still hear some sounds on the other side of the river. It was fainter, and he realized, Miles, we got a hard left, and the river's that way. We got to go straight over to the river, catch the road, and come back to the vehicle. And they did this. Fortunately, they found the road and came straight back to the vehicle, threw everything in the back of the pickup, jumped in, did a U-turn, and got out of there. They got back home, really happy to be back home, and felt like it was kind of a close situation, but they didn't feel any real imminent danger, but they thought these things are to be respected, and they thought, yeah, let's get out of here while we can before it gets too dark, and who knows what could happen after dark. They came back the next day, didn't get access to the other side, but they were able to take some photographs of the two trees, and some of the area where these Bigfoot came in at these different angles. And Jonathan said he really got the bug about Bigfoot, Sasquatch, cryptids, and they've gone back other times to look, listen, take photos, observe, really had an experience. And they believe they saw a family or a clan of Bigfoot. Who knows how big it really was, but they for sure saw, most likely, a mom and a dad and a junior. They didn't know for sure. But that is our story from Dubuque, Iowa, tributary along the Mississippi River. So, okay, I am going to hike out of this basin, get back to the top, and then get down to my vehicle. So